Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice Radio. So today, we're going to be taking a look at Garchomp and Giratina. You should be used to this by now, ladies and gentlemen. When Tag Team GXs are legal in Japan, somebody goes and wins a tournament with them. It happens. It's happened with almost everyone so far. Technically, it has happened with everyone. Now, I'm slightly skeptical with Marshadow and Machamp, but that was featured in a winning deck. Admittedly, it's the one that played 7 different Tag Team GXs and Porygon Z, but technically, kind of counts. They're good, and turns out that Garchomp and Giratina is good as well. So we probably should start off with having a quick reminder of what Garchomp and Giratina actually does. Side note, just earlier today I showed you the new Garchomp on its own from this set, which is also phenomenal and winning. And if you're a fan of Garchomp, like I am, good time to be a fan of Garchomp, frankly. So it's a Dragon Pokemon, 270 HP, usual Tag Team GX stuff. 1 colorless energy, 40 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon is fine. It's not particularly good, it's not particularly inspiring, it's not a reason to play the card. It's nice occasionally there'll be something on the bench which is just about to be KO'd and this can come in. It's not bad, it's just not particularly inspiring. But the main attack here, 1 Psychic, 1 Fighting, 1 colorless energy, 160 damage. That's fine, not great for a Tag Team GX. But if the active Pokemon has any damage counters on it, then you do 240. So if you can get any damage on there whatsoever, you're good. You're hitting huge damage, they've got some damage on them already, and you're basically one-hit KOing everything. And largely that's what this deck is. I am going to spread a tiny bit of damage around, and then just crush everyone with Garchomp and Giratina. That's the way the deck works. Now, there is a GX attack here. 2 Psychic, 1 Fighting energy. Discard one of your opponent's Pokemon and all cards attached to them. If this Pokemon has 3 extra Fighting energy attached to it, discard 2 of your opponent's Pokemon and all cards attached to them instead. Could be fun. Get rid of your opponent's Pokemon. It's not amazing. We are playing this for the second attack. Now, the main support Pokemon you should probably not be surprised to hear here is Malamar. Malamar allows you to accelerate 1 Psychic energy from the discard to one of your bench Pokemon per Malamar per turn. It's good. This is how you get the energy on. Now, this only puts Psychic energy on, not Fighting, but if you read the attack cost as Psychic, Psychic, Fighting, use Malamar for the 2 Psychic, attach to Fighting as your attachment from the hand for the turn, and you're good. You're rolling. But there are a bunch of other Pokemon we play here as well. Now, in terms of getting the damage counters on, there are 2 printable Pokemon we're using. Firstly, the Giratina from Lost Thunder. I mean, thematically, this is wonderful, using Giratina to back up Giratina. But when it's in the discard pile, you can put it from the discard onto the bench, and then drop 1 damage counter onto each of 2 of your opponent's benched Pokemon. Doesn't hit the active, which can be a pain, because sometimes you want to take out the active and it's not got any damage on, so this can be annoying in that regard, but certainly for bench Pokemon it's great. But don't be sleeping on Giratina as a non-GX attacker. 130 for free energy, you accelerate the energy with your Malamar, and this is your non-GX attacker of choice. This is generally what we're doing in terms of a non-GX attacker. We also have Tapu Koko here, Flying Flip, 2 energy, 20 damage to all of your opponent's Pokemon. And no, we're not playing double colorless energy here, but we've got Malamar, and Malamar will get the energy on there quite nicely. And then this will do damage to everything. There's always a worry that your opponent is going to do something like play an Ace Roller and then play down an undamaged Pokemon, or even just play down a Pokemon after you've used Flying Flip. Giratina's good because you can use it and then attack. Whereas Tapu Koko is an attack, and then your opponent can heal or whatever, but at least this does hit everything. And then there's a bunch of kind of one-offs here. There is 1 copy of Tapu Lele. It gets your supporters out. It's in pretty much every deck. It's Tapu Lele. There is 1 copy of Marshadow GX here. And Marshadow GX very simply can copy the attacks of any basic Pokemon in your discard pile. It's really quite good. And to be honest, a lot of the time here, the best one to copy is going to be Giratina. Although you do put 4 damage counters down, so be careful. Why would you use Marshadow? Either you copy something like Giratina, so you can hit with weakness and KO a Pikarom, or even you copy the attack of Garchomp and Giratina to get a KO on a Tag Team GX, but if you're KO with Marshadow, you're taking 3 prizes while giving up 2, you're winning that prize race, ladies and gentlemen. That is very much in your favour. And then there is one copy of Mimikyu and Gengar Tag Team GX. I love this. Now, 2 energy, 50 damage for each trainer card in your opponent's hand. We're not playing anything like Lavender Town here, which means we're not going to be able to check and see, which is a bit of a pain. But I still love this. This can be really, really handy as an emergency, and it's only for 2 energy rather than 3, and it doesn't need fighting. There are reasons you'd want to play this. But you've also got the GX attack here. 1 energy, your opponent cannot play any cards from their hand during their next turn. If this Pokemon has at least 1 extra Psychic energy, both players draw until they've got 7 cards in hand. Now that's good for you because you're drawing extra cards, and it's kind of good for your opponent, but remember they cannot play any of them next turn, so you can then take advantage with Poltergeist. It's not the main point of this deck, but it very much is an option there. It's something that you can do, gives you another attacker, means you're not so reliant on fighting energy, lower energy attacker, and options, ladies and gentlemen. Options. And then there's 2 copies of Jirachi. Jirachi lets you look at the top 5 cards of your deck, find a trainer card, put it in your hand. You go asleep, but we're playing a couple of escape board here, which lets you retreat when you're asleep, so that's not a problem. And this just gives you added consistency. This isn't a deck where you're switching in and out constantly like Zapdos Jirachi. You're not going to be using Jirachi as much, but after you play a Guzma, after there's a KO, etc., this is a really, really nice card. This works out quite nicely indeed. So, let's have a look at the trainers, shall we? Now, in terms of the supporter line here, we're playing 4 copies of Lily. We want to get everything. We don't want to shuffle cards back in because we want to keep the energy and then dig for something to discard it so we can attach it with Malamar, etc., etc. We are still playing 1 copy of Cynthia, but just the 1 here. We've got 3 copies of Guzma, drags a Pokemon off the bench, but also acts as a switch. Good for Jirachi. We've got 1 copy of Ace Roller. We see this in so many decks nowadays. You're playing a Tag Team GX. When it goes down, you give up 3 prizes. This allows you to heal it before it goes down. It's a good thing. In terms of Pokemon search here, we are really going for it. 4 copies of Nestball, 4 copies of Ultra Ball, 4 copies of Mysterious Treasure. Remember, Mysterious Treasure can only search out Psychic and Dragon Pokemon, but the vast, vast majority of your Pokemon here are, so don't worry your pretty little head about it. And yeah, Ultra Ball discards 2 cards in your hand, and yeah, Mysterious Treasure discards 1. But between discarding energy for Malamar and discarding Giratina, you want to be discarding a bunch of cards from your hand here. So this is actually really nice and lovely, and we like it. 1 copy of Erica's Hospitality, that's just a bit of extra draw. And 3 copies of Switch. Like I said, this isn't a full-on switch in, switch out like Zapdos Jirachi, but you're still playing 2 copies of Jirachi. You're still playing 2 Escape Board. So having 3 copies of Switch here is really nice. Not to mention you've got things like Malamar, which has a retreat cost of 2, that could very easily be caught in the active, and that would be a bad thing and make you very sad. We've then got 1 copy of Rescue Stretcher to recover your Pokemon. That's pretty important. You're not playing all that many of all of them. 1 copy of Black Belt. This is one of those cards that came out in GG The End in Japan. If you're behind on prizes, the Pokemon to which it is attached pays 1 fighting energy less to attack. Well, gee whiz. That means that your Garchomp Giratina comes down to Psychic Colorless. Firstly, it's cheaper. Secondly, you don't have to worry about the fighting energy. Although, incidentally, if you do want to worry about the fighting energy, our stadium of choice here is Viridian Forest. Discard a card from your hand, search for an energy. And we've talked about the fact that discarding can be good, But here you need to search your fighting energy. You cannot afford to have those turns where Malamar is accelerating energy but you don't get the fighting. Now, to be fair, you can on that turn use Mimikyu and Gengar, and you can attack with Giratina. But sometimes you really want to attack with Garchomp and Giratina. You really want to be able to get that big attack off. You need the fighting energy, that's why you're playing Viridian Forest. And then just a single copy of Choice Band to do an extra 30 damage. This seemed like a really good Pokemon. Most of these Tag Team GXs have been winning over in Japan. Technically all of them, but there's a big asterisk next to that one. It was played as a one-of in a deck that played 7 different one-ofs. It doesn't really count. This seemed like a really good one on the face of it, and lo and behold, turns out it's a really good one. Who'da funk it, ladies and gentlemen? Who'da funk it? Whether you funk it or not, let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, but please do remember the rule. Be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where we talk about games that don't have Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.